who would you say in order are the most powerful people in America? The actual politicians, the billionaires, the media folks, the lobbyists, or others?
I'd say the most powerful right now are the titans of Silicon Valley because of the stranglehold that they have on information. And we've seen some evidence of that with Twitter banning the New York Post, but it goes far, far, far deeper than that. The vast majority of people, some estimate 80%, are getting their news and their information basically from platforms like Facebook and Twitter, that they're relying on Google for their search algorithms. And they have an ability to manipulate news and information, and they use it. And that, to me, is extremely troubling because they essentially walk in lockstep. They all have generally the same worldview, and they can use that power in such a way as to influence the politicians and who gets elected. So I would put Silicon Valley titans first, not just because of their wealth, but because of their ability to control information. I would put second on that public government officials, meaning President of the United States and members of Congress. What you often see is, whether it's people in Wall Street, people in oil companies who are rich, who are successful, going to Washington, D.C. with their tail between the legs, and oftentimes they should, but that's a demonstration of the power and the authority that government has. Think about it this way. Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft, enormously wealthy, enormously successful. Does he have more power than the number 2 person at the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA? I would argue he does not. Think about it this way. Bill Gates made his money by selling computers, voluntary exchange. People give money to Microsoft. Microsoft sends you the product that you're buying. That's how he made his money. Now he's got money. He can fund political campaigns. He can fund charitable activities. But Bill Gates cannot really legally compel anybody to do anything. If Bill Gates came to me and said, I think your lawn looks bad, I want you to change your lawn, I can tell Bill Gates to get lost. The number 2 in charge of the Environmental Protection Agency has a lot of power vested in his authority. He can put in process a procedure to confiscate land from individuals. He can bring criminal charges against individuals that he feels have violated the environment. And he may or may not be right. But the point is, who has actually the power to compel people to do something? I would say the number 2 person at the EPA has more power than Bill Gates does. So I would government officials second. And then I would probably list third the media. And what I mean by that is sort of the mainstream media, their ability to influence and determine what stories and what narratives that they feel are important.
And where do billionaires rank on here? Nowhere?
I would put billionaires below that because I would say that I don't view billionaires as a monolith. There are certainly ones that are very engaged in wanting to sort of transform American society. I mean, George Soros, for example, very, very active in a number of initiatives. He wants to reshape things in the United States and other parts of the world in the way that he wants them to. And he can do that. He's rich and he runs these charities. You can look at somebody on the right side of the spectrum who's more libertarian. You can look at the Koch brothers and say that they're doing the same thing. So there's no question that they have power and that they have influence, but I think they're less monolithic than the media. They're less monolithic than Silicon Valley, and they certainly can make a huge difference, but I think it's much more constrained and limited. And by the way, let me just add, one of the reasons that has changed, again, I would return to the election of Donald Trump. Donald Trump in 2016 shattered what was considered an iron rule of politics for decades, which was the guy who raises the most money, the guy who gets the most big money donors from Wall Street and everywhere else is elected president of the United States. Donald Trump did not do that in 2016. He broke that rule, and I think it's a great thing that he did, and I think it's one of the reasons that billionaires don't have the power that they did maybe 8 or 10 years ago.
Where would you put universities on there? Would universities be below billionaires and media and government officials?
Well, if you think long term, in terms of long term power, you probably have to put them up at number one or number two. Because again, their ability to shape the views and attitudes of people. And it really, to me, is stunning, the fact that the First Amendment, that freedom of thought, is being diminished at our universities is outrageous. It also speaks to me, though, to this. It speaks to me the complete lack of confidence that the hard left in this country actually has. Because if the hard left believed that their ideas were attractive, that their ideas were seductive, that their ideas were superior to those being presented by conservatives or moderates, they would want an open discussion. They would want to expose the weakness, the fallibility, the ridiculousness of conservative ideas. But they don't do that because they recognize that their ideas really are not that attractive. The only way that they can get the adoption of their ideas is by creating an environment where other ideas are excluded. So that gives them enormous power, but they're also, in my mind, a paper tiger. And when you get a competition of ideas, they are generally going to lose.
Powerful. So number one, it could be a 1A, 1B, Titans of Silicon Valley University. So university is more long-term social media right now. Number two or number three would be government officials, president, Congress, Senate next, or would you say president, Congress, governor? How would you put that?
I would say president, Congress. So much of the power now is in Washington, D.C. It shouldn't be, but it is.
It is what it is. Then we have media, mainstream media. Then it's billionaires. Billionaires don't have as much influence as they used to have, which is actually very good news to see that taking place.